Hello there and welcome to this game analysis video. I'm going to look at the game that I played the past weekend. I was playing in the Icelandic League. My last video, I posted a video about my preparation for this game. You know what I was looking at against the opponent I was expecting to play. But as I showed up to the board to play the game, I even sat across from my opponent who I thought I was playing, Vignir Vatnar. But then he was told that he wasn't playing there, so he was playing board 2. So I got a new opponent, FIDE Master Halldór Grétar Einarsson, which I did not expect at all, and I hadn't actually prepared at all for the possibility of playing against him. Now, still, I got the black pieces as expected. You know which board you will be at, so you know which color you will get. But I wasn't expecting another opponent, so that was a bit of a shock. So I get, theoretically a weaker opponent, but he's a very strong player, a FIDE master. And turns out he did some preparation for the game that I also did not expect, because I didn't think that he would be expecting to play on board 3. So, fun fact, we have the same birthday, the 4th of March, along with Bent Larsen and I think Alexander Morosevich. And the last time we played was 10 years ago, 10 years and 2 months. On the 14th of March 2011, we played at the Reykjavik Open, and this game was played at the 14th of May, so 10 years and 2 months apart. We played each other a bunch of times in some Blitz tournament and such games, but been a while since we played a classical game. And I know my opponent plays d4. So once we sat down, he played d4. I took some time. I hadn't really decided what I was going to play. And actually, when I play the games, I actually write down. It's going to be some ASMR here. So as you can see, well, I hope you can see it. I even wrote down the name of my opponent because he was sitting down on the board, but then I changed to the other one when I saw him. So I actually write down the time that I'm taking, and we can have that as kind of reference. d4. I played knight f6. I played that relatively quickly because even if I play the Ragozin, I play with that move order, knight f6. He played c4. Same thing as I was expecting with the other opponent. And I played e6. He played knight f3. And now I had to think, do I want to play d5 as I had prepared for the other opponent, or do I want to play the Benoni? I can add that the game we played 10 years ago, I played the Czech Benoni. That was a good game, I think. But still, at the odd chance of him having prepared for the game, I didn't want to play that. Even though it was successful, I beat him 10 years ago. So I decided to play the Benoni. I took about 3 minutes here to play c5. So c5. He played d5. Took it. This is the main line. d6, knight c3. Now we started playing the moves quite fast. g6, and he played h3. Usually, it's not played this early, but in many cases it might be more accurate because it prevents many lines where black goes bishop g4. So for those that know the so-called modern main line, then white usually goes e4, bishop g7, and then usually h3 and then bishop d3. But we have maybe the added choice of going bishop g4 early here, sort of an anti-modern mainline move, bishop g4, maybe flicking in h6 or something. But it's a risky line. But h3 just cuts it out basically, so it doesn't have to worry about it. And also I didn't know which line he wanted to play. I didn't remember, I had some notes from 10 years ago, but I didn't remember them, obviously, about what he played. But it seems 10 years ago I wanted to avoid what he played against the Benoni. So I wonder what that was at that time. So white can also play bishop f4 here, which is a good line, kind of a modern trend as well, and scores pretty well. Since he made wasted the move on h3 there, I might get away with some different things than in the main line. But he went to e4, so I didn't really have to think about it. And he played this still quite fast. I still played fast. I played a6. And I basically decided to play, the little that I know and what I play in online blitz games on chess.com. And turns out that might have been a mistake, because he did check out my games on chess.com, just like I recommended in my preparation video. So obviously my opponent in this game knew he was, had a better idea that he might be facing me than I had, that I would be facing him. So I didn't really check anything. In that case, how the opening would go would be a different story. But here, the opening isn't really in my favor. After bishop d3, knight h5. So when I play online, most of the time people castle here. My opponent did not. He played bishop g5. So when we play online, it's mostly castles. I play knight e5. So black doesn't castle yet. Bishop e2, we take this and we play for an attack. White takes this, and black has some nice, dynamic chances, to get an attack going and have a few nice online blitz games. But doing quite well with that line, actually. But he did not allow that, now did he? I want to back up a little bit to when I play a6. The main move is to castle, but then you have to know a lot of theory after bishop d3. You can still play a6 and just play that line. But the kind of main theoretical move is to play b5. And it's so much theory, I don't like it. And one of the main lines you end up with, some counterplay for a pawn, but the danger is that if white manages to extinguish the initiative, he's going to end up just a pawn up and you're suffering. So I did not fancy that, and that's why I tend to play this line. But obviously I should be better booked up, and I will be, because I want to focus more energy again into playing classical chess. I'll get into the reasons for that a bit later. But he played bishop d5 here, and that's a strong move, because black doesn't really have a lot of moves here to play. I think it's basically more or less the only move played. Queen g7 has been played in one game, but you always run the risk of, in some cases, of bishop e7 after you castle, stuff like that. But the bishop f6 is what's played almost every time here. My opponent retreated, and he was well prepared here. He spent only 6 minutes on his clock. I've spent 11 here now when I play 95. 11 total. That's of course without the increment. So 12 moves, I get 30 seconds. So that's 6 minutes. So I spent 18 minutes in total. 11 minutes clock time. So 95. And the idea is just to limit the congestion. There are a lot of pieces in each other's way. This bishop needs to get out. So we want to trade. We have less space, we want to trade. It's usually a good idea to trade off one knight or the bishop for the knight if you can in the Benoni. So bishop back to e2, he wants to keep the light squared bishop. Now he's threatening to take on e5 and then take on h5. So to justify knight e5, I have to take on f3. And unfortunately, there's no square for this knight except this one, so we have to play knight g7. So this is the downside of this particular line, and white is just better here. And he played queen d2, and he's still up on the clock. And here I spent some time. I spent Spent 6 minutes here on my next move. Castling is possible. Found some games with Ivan Ivanisevic, Boris Savchenko. Castling can definitely be played, but I'll play rook b8, which I'm not sure is a great move. I want to play b5. That's logical. That's logical. I think my thinking was, since he hasn't castled, I thought he might go for some funny stuff here. Maybe play h4. Because, he has this battery, the rook is still here, try to play h5. Kind of modern stuff. So I kind of wanted to just wait, not castle until he castled. But he didn't castle, he played rook b1, which is a very annoying move. Because he wants to play b4. And if he manages to play b4, it seems like the position is pretty prospectless for black. Let's say a castle, which I did not do, and he plays b4. See, now we no longer have any breaks on the queen side. Very often black is playing b5, b4, getting some play on the queen side. But here, after we take, if we don't take and allow white to take, well, how to actually do it, like queen c7 or something. He's gonna take, and now this pawn is free to roam. So he's gonna, castle and prepare that bishop f4, and that looks pretty bad. So we have to take, rook takes, and now white's play is quite easy. He's gonna castle and bring this rook over to the b file. He can plant a bishop on b6. Where's the counterplay coming from? The knight can go e2, d4, drop into c6 if I'm not careful. So where's the counterplay? I did not like that at all. So I wanted to stop b4, so I played queen c7. So I'm kind of going, I didn't like my position. I'm kind of going move by move. I spent a lot of time here, 16 minutes on queen c7. So I'm getting a little bit behind on the clock. And the idea is now you can't play b4 because takes and the knight hangs. Because of the queen. So he castled. I found nothing better than to castle myself, and he played rook after c1. Now I played bishop e5. The problem in black's position, and one of the key ideas of rook b1, and this is, I think, important to know if you play the Benoni. If you play b5, white's going to take it. And it's important to take to get the open a file. Then you play b4. And now, especially because my knight is far away, I don't have the option of playing something like knight d7. Even if I could, it's probably not good. Because once he takes on c5, this pawn hangs. So my pieces don't stand very well. So I could either play c takes b4, but that seems to be pretty insane to open up the c file towards the queen. He can take on b5, then enter my position. So it seems like I can only play c4. Now this is a good setup for white, because he can control the a file now. He can play rook a1. If I could meet him on the a file, maybe have the bishop here, queen here, and challenge the a file, maybe this would be okay. I don't have a lot of play, but maybe I would have control. Control of my own position. He's not going to enter my position. But now he's going to play rook a7. So we have to cover this pawn. Bishop d7. He's going to enter. Okay, I can block him, but now rook fa1. And it seems like we get into trouble here. He might play this. And then he's starting to maybe start taking stuff. Rook a6 at some point. And I have a lot of weak stuff. And he can improve the position also with bishop e2, knight e2, knight d4. Bishop f4 for more pressure. At some stage, maybe when the rook goes back. So I think that's a pretty bad situation for black. So we have to avoid that. We can't really play e5. So I played bishop e5. And the idea of that was to free my f-pawn. Try to play f5 and try to finally get this knight back into the game, because a fianchettoed knight is usually not a very good piece. Okay, b4. And I thought 16 minutes for bishop e5, 6 minutes for castles. I'm spending a lot of time. I thought my position was difficult. He played b4, he has 44 minutes left. And here again, I spent 15 minutes. And I abandoned my original plan of playing f5. And I played b6. I felt like there was more holding b6. If he wants to play here, I will probably just block and then start playing f5, and I should be happy because, you know, his queen side play is extinguished. He might be able to maneuver a knight at some point, like b1, a3, c4, because c4 would be a great square in that block position. But still, maybe I get going on the king side in the meantime. Also, he has ideas like this, but I wasn't super worried. Now he played knight e2. Turns out afterwards, I think the computer liked my move b6 more than f5. So he plays knight e2. And this seems to be where he kind of lets me into the game. He spent 19 minutes on this move. And he should probably get going with moves like a5 immediately. Maybe a move like bishop e2 to play f4 is also interesting. But knight e2, it seems like now I'm kind of getting into the game. I play f5. In some lines, I can play f4. Not right now, but you know, once white starts taking stuff, that possibility could open up. And also, I just want to take and bring the knight in, try to get something on the d4 square. So he played a5, logical, trying to undermine my pawn chain. Again, I thought way too long. I played f5 quickly, but after a5 he had 23 minutes. I took on a5 with 8 minutes left. But I think it's the correct choice. And the idea is to threaten my position. He has to take on c5 to try to undermine my pawns. If he takes on a5, I'm happy. I just chop on b1. Well, I don't even have to do that. I can bring my bishop to b5 and start doing something on the king side. So he has to take on c5. But then I can take on b1. So I take the rook off the file, which is important because now I can take on c5. And he doesn't have a Swiss Zouk, of course, because I take with check. So he has to take the rook back and now dc. And he has to spend the move to get the rook back, threatening my pawn. And I played c4. I think we were in a little bit of a time trouble phase here. Well, he still has 16 minutes, I have 5. Queen a2, threatening my pawn. I felt like I couldn't keep it. If I play c3, he has many options. He could take on f5 and then play d6 check. My queen would have to interpose, and then maybe I can't take with a knight on f5 because bishop d5. c3 might even be able to take it right away. Knight takes, bishop takes, and then d6, and then take on c3. So I thought I'd chuck the pawn and try to get my pieces active, and I took on e4. 3 minutes left. Rook takes c4. 13 minutes left. Queen f7. 2 minutes. Here he thought down to 9 minutes and made the incorrect choice. He took with the bishop, which I was kind of relieved to see. If he takes with the rook, it seems I'm struggling a bit. I can play bishop back to d6, but the move bishop f4 seems to be very strong. I can play this, but okay. I'm basically down a pawn because of this. White has a passed pawn. His pieces are centralized. The king is safe. This has to be better for white. But after bishop takes e4, which he played, now my knight gets into the game. Knight to f5. And now I'm threatening to take on e3 and take on f2. And we're happy. So bishop c5 and now knight d6. And this move is strong because he can't take the knight. I'll take this and it's checkmate. Strong bishop here. So knight e6 is quite strong. I'm hitting his rook. I'm hitting his bishop. We're taking over here. Unless he finds a strong move. He's down to 6 minutes. I have 2 minutes. Here he needs to find the move f2 to f4. Eliminating my bishop. Then taking on d6. And just playing the position. It's basically equal pawns. He can take on a5 at some stage. And he should not lose that. So f4 should have been played, but he didn't find it. He played rook a4, down to 5 minutes, and I immediately found bishop d7. I'm simply hitting the rook. You can't keep up with the defense here of the bishop, and you still can't take here because queen takes f2 and mate. So he has to give up the exchange, and from here I think I played pretty clinically. We don't get any added time, so it's just 90 minutes and the extra 30 seconds. So I'm down to like 3 minutes, but I always get the 30 seconds. So we're going to have that situation until the end of the game. I played queen b7. Back rank issues. I'm trying to take advantage of that. Get my queen more active. He played knight c3. Taking control of the square, but queen to b2. Hitting the knight. And now it looks difficult. He played bishop takes d6. If knight d1, I think I was intending queen d2 probably. With an annoying threat. He might have played g3. Or queen c1. Actually, I can't remember. Yeah, queen c1 probably. I think I was intending this. The idea being if he takes this, to protect this guy, I'm going to take this. And then this. But he took on d6. And here I thought I was reasonably clever. I took on c3. And he can't take my rook because there's still back rank mate. Bishop covers a2. Very important. So I'm able to take on c3. And I keep the exchange. He took on e5. And now what did I play? What did I play? Queen takes e5, right? Wrong. Queen e1 check. We want to take the bishop with check. King h2, queen takes e5. So this is move 35. The move actually doesn't matter. We both had 2 minutes. I'm trying to win. So what do I do after king g1? It's a classical game where we have increment. You get 30 seconds for each move. I obviously quickly played queen e1 check and queen back to e5. Same position, but I get an extra minute. Extra minute to think. Very important technique that we have to remember to use in classical games. And now rook c8. Activating my rook, and I'm threatening mate. Well, actually, check, and then winning the bishop on d1. I would interpose. Also, white has to be really careful at the rook c8. He played g4. I think if he plays g3, then I will probably check first with the queen, and then rook c1. Importantly, we're covering the checking square. There's no check here. And I don't see how he escapes, because if g4, queen g1, if anything else, bishop somewhere, then queen h1 mate. So I think he's just getting mated here. So that's why I played g4. g4 right away means that now he can play after queen e1 check, king here, I play rook c1, then king here immediately. So he's not getting mated on g1. But here I had seen a way to, well, sail it home. So what's the most practical way for black here? The most practical way to sail it home. I play rook to f8, hitting the bishop. If the bishop moves, what happens? If the bishop moves, I play queen e1 check, and queen takes f2. So he protected the bishop. But what's our idea here? Queen f6, doubling on the f-file. He has to protect this. So what was the idea of this battery here, this operation on the F file? Simplification, outside pass pawn. I took this, I played this. I had built up a little bit of time so I could even double check, even though I knew this was winning, but no harm in double checking, just using your remaining time to be absolutely sure. And now a4. And usually when I'm checking the square, I just look at this. And this is enough for me in my mind to check the square. I see he's way out of it. So this is the square, but we only need the arrow to make sure. So he's way out of it. And now I just need to make sure that I'm in the square of this pawn. And obviously I am, because we just look at the arrow. Boom, it's right here. And his king is too far away. He played on a few moves, because why not? Just play out the moves, even though you think you know what's going on. There's no harm in playing out the moves and then seeing if you're correct. d6 after king f7. He played king d5, and after a2 he resigned. Even if he was one move ahead, d7, yeah. If he had one extra move though, I would have to be careful. And then I would play this and this, just to be safe. But a2, I'm queening next move, so I'm winning the game. So, a good start for me. An opponent rated 2238. FIDE Master. So I'm happy. First tournament game in a while. Like I mentioned in the preparation video, the first part of the Icelandic League, it's played over 2 weekends. 2 weekends, and the first weekend was in 2019. Played 5 games in 2019, and we finally finished it after more than 600 days. We played 4 classical games to finish things up. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Kind of a longer video. So let me know if you like these as well. I'll try to keep them shorter, but yeah, sometimes I just ramble. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.